So we'll talk about this big upcoming game this week with Tennessee going into Georgia. Um, Huge matchup here. Like we talked about, big implications for the playoff, for the SEC in general, um, and huge test. I mean, Tennessee passed the Alabama test already, but they were at home. They had the crowd behind them, and they win by a field goal in a close game. This is a bit different where they're going to Georgia. We know Georgia's had their struggles sometimes. We saw them struggle with Missouri when they weren't playing as well earlier this season. But this is, they're going to be up for this game. They're going to be ready. Kirby Smart's going to have his guys ready to go. And Tennessee's going to really have to prove some things here with, can their offense keep this kind of pace up and be able to put the points up against Georgia, and can their defense as well hold against Georgia, right?
Right.
The odd thing and some stats that people were mentioning so far this week is if you did a blind resume test in terms of who throws the ball more with the passing yards and who is getting more rushing yards, you would think Georgia has more rushing yards, Tennessee throwing the ball more type of thing, but it's really flipped.
Mm.
And it's a like even one of the reasons why Tennessee was able to beat Bama was because they were able to run the
Run the
ball
ball
so
so well.
effectively,
Yeah.
so that they could kind of bring those safeties down, have them get in the box, and then they could hit you over the top for the touchdown. So it'll be interesting how Kirby Smart obviously has the advantage of being able to watch Bama have this problem. I'm sure he has a plan in place to attack this.
Right.
On As well as they have some guys over there. We know they have pretty much a whole NFL team that left last season, but they still have guys that are solid players. A lot of
Yeah.
guys who are going to the NFL as well, and yeah, it'll be some interesting things to see how Kirby Smart attacks Tennessee on the defensive end. And we haven't even mentioned much about Stetson Bennett and his up
Right.
and downs. What is Stetson Bennett going to do? Because now, if you look on the other hand, if Tennessee has a subpar game offensively, maybe Georgia does their part defensively, but maybe Tennessee is able to still come out with a
So
win if they're
yeah.
off, right? Because Tennessee's should be able to put up points almost no matter what with their offensive pace and all that. Like, I would be very, very surprised if Tennessee got like held to 6 points, like how they held Kentucky to 6 points
Yeah.
this past week. So, yeah, it'd definitely be an interesting thing to see how this one turns out. Georgia at home, 8.5 point favorites here. And yeah, I mean, I think Georgia has a pretty good chance to win this game. Um, I'd probably root for Tennessee just to kind of keep seeing the
Same.
party rolling with them
Yeah.
as a team that's been down. I don't know how keep having this success. Things change and things like that, and then maybe it becomes annoying dealing with Tennessee fans again. But
Yeah.
for now, I think it's a fun story, and yeah,
Yeah. It would be nice to. I think you. That's a great point with Stenson Bennett. Is like we don't know what Stenson Bennett we're gonna get, and it's like, he obviously has to come to play. Tennessee is no pushover, no rollover team. They're gonna put up points, so you have to be able to go head to head with Hendon Hooker and that offense that they have behind them. And like you said, I think Kirby would probably be able to game plan a little bit better, being that he did get to see what Alabama struggled with. But again, I don't know. I think Tennessee just they have so much momentum going into this week. They have so much momentum going into this game this year. Their fans, I'm sure, are gonna travel. They're gonna be there present, being doing what they were doing in the Alabama game. Um, but it's not an easy opponent, but I think Tennessee comes away with it, and I think they'll cover the spread for sure. But I think Tennessee's going to come out with the win on top.
yeah, and we can get into another huge SEC matchup. This one is number 6 Alabama traveling to Death Valley to face number 15 LSU. Alabama 12.5 points favorite here. Um, Pretty decent sized spread. Alabama has been known to kind of dominate some of these type of games on the road. These kind of bounce back, let me show you what we have type of games. They haven't really been playing like that this year. This is one though. It kind of feels like all the makings of too good to be true in terms of this is a game where Saban will kind of re-exert
So
and take over that role that he's had against an LSU team. Yeah, LSU's ranked number 15. Um, are they actually the 15th best team in the country? I don't know. I don't know if I would say so.
yeah, I
I
don't
think
think
I don't
so.
think they're not deserving of the ranking resume wise. We've seen them had play great. They've played some great games.
Right.
And maybe they're able to kind of, harness some of that magic that they've been able to use against certain teams. But with a 12 and a half point spread, it almost feels like Alabama might, come out,
Just
dominate, and
put the
cover
foot
that
on the
no
gas
problem.
and yeah,
Yeah, they
exactly.
might just choke these guys out. I mean, it's a night game in Death Valley, and we talked about environments when we talked about Ohio State going to Penn State. We talked about environments with
With
at
Florida.
Tennessee. We talked about Florida early in the year. We got Tennessee going into Georgia this week, but Death Valley is one of the harder places to play. This is a night game, right? Everything sets up pretty nicely for LSU, but sometimes players play, and Alabama, despite some of their struggles, still plays like a top tier team. They have a loss to Tennessee, who's
It's a
ranked number
great
one
team.
for the college football playoff right now. They're doing things right. Their offense is insane, and it was a 3-point loss on the road. So now you come in. Let's for argument's sake just say LSU is the number 15th team in the country. I mean, Bama still should probably be able
To put them away.
to put them away, and it speaks volumes them coming in on a road game, a night game in an environment like LSU has, and still being 12 and a half point favorites here.
Yeah, that's great.
So yeah, I probably look to Bama to kind of self correct itself here a little bit. Really get back on track with one of those statement games. They need it. They're obviously gonna still be in the hunt for the playoff, and yeah, I look for Bama to win and cover here. And we'll move on to our last game we're previewing. This is a Big 12 matchup between Texas Tech and number 7 TCU. Still undefeated TCU, 9.5 point favorites at home against a pretty scrappy Texas Tech team, but that a team that is kind of up and down. We saw them be able to pull some upsets at home at points. We saw them also struggle against Baylor last week and kind of not perform up to par there. There was a few games that we could have previewed. This game seemed to make the most sense despite Texas Tech not being ranked.
Right.
Really just because of TCU being undefeated and their hunt for the college football playoff. And they're still, I mean, 9.5 points is a decent amount, but it isn't that much, right? But TCU is a team that everyone has their eye on. Can they stay undefeated? They've been able to win games by, they put up a lot of points. It is the Big 12. We talked about the exciting football going on in that conference, but they also had some close games. They've been able to win games also by just, I don't know what you want to call it, luck or whatever, but just straight knocking teams, quarterbacks out of games.
Yeah, which is crazy.
So yeah, it'll be an interesting one. We know Texas Tech, they can get on a roll and put up points. So if things go right for them, they can have the firepower to match TCU. TCU should have the better defense. I mean, they've kind of proven that, but we see teams, things happen, and other teams are able to score points sometimes. So, interesting matchup. I would think TCU would win. As far as the spread goes, I'd probably put it as 50-50. It's probably about right there in terms of, yeah, will they cover or not. So, yeah, big matchup for the Big 12, really because TCU is at this point the best shot for the Big 12 to have a playoff team. We talked about the college football playoff rankings now, the first initial ones, and
Right.
TCU is down there at number 7. So they need, we know the other teams ahead of them, they're going to face each other. how far are those teams going to drop when they lose is one part of it. And two, TCU needs to keep on pace and keep winning. If TCU loses, especially if they lose in a bad way,
Yeah, to a Texas Tech team that
it'll
kind of
probably
diminishes
be
everything.
they'll probably be out, and maybe probably no Big 12 team can make it. So as the only hope, definitely a big game for the Big 12 as a whole, and TCU definitely hoping and doing their best to make the playoffs.